Celebrate Christmas with Channel 4 and Joseph Losey's film version of Mozart's Don Giovanni with Kiri Te Kanawa as Donna Elvira. And Ruggero Raimondi in the title role as the legendary seducer. The spectacular film version of Mozart's Don Giovanni, this Saturday at 9 o'clock.
Now on 4, 5 classically trained British musicians, Incantation, discover the music of the Andes.
Simon Rogers, Forbes Henderson, Tony Hinnigan, Mike Taylor and Chris Swithenbank are Incantation, a British group who used their combined instrumental and musical skills to put this traditional Bolivian wino, Cachapaya, into the top 10 of the British singles chart in 1983. In this programme, we travel to South America with the group to explore the ancient land of the Incas, where this unique music has its roots. But first, what are the musical origins of Incantation? The group are all classically trained musicians who got together when they were working for Britain's top modern dance company, Ballet Rambert.
Hey, boys, surprise. Creamy pints? There's like, Jimmy, 5 creamy pints of Baz. How are you?
They've been called upon to play an enormous variety of music for the ballet. Mike and Chris are currently singing in choreographer Christopher Bruce's dramatic Irish ballet, Sergeant Early's Dream.
To a cast of brandy, it was my fancy I do declare, for when I'm drinking I am thinking and wishing Peggy Gordon was here. I wish I was away in England.
Yeah, you know, going in, you look like you're preparing. You used to go from here and you used to be called, and somehow you used to make it a little.
It was Christopher Bruce at Ballet Rambert who first introduced the group to South American traditional music when he needed them to accompany one of several pieces which he has devised based on different folk cultures.
How it all came about was that I was contacted by some South American people, mostly exiled Chileans, about doing a ballet which spoke visually about the political situation there, particularly in Chile. So Ghost Dancers was born, and they'd presented me with some marvelous South American folk music.
Every time a new ballet comes into Romberg, it's always a very exciting time for the musicians anyway, because as you know, we have to get things together and then go out on tour. But it was slightly different when Nick, the musical director, gave us this tape saying Chris Bruce is thinking of doing this ballet. And I was sticking on. I remember being at home sticking it on thinking, my God, what's that? And because I'd never heard this stuff before, ever. And I must listen to it for about a month before, before we actually got anything together. And the more I listened to it, the more I became sort of virtually obsessed with the music anyway. And by that time, I'd already sort of thought about how nice it would be to do other things outside the Romberg if it was possible, because the music definitely had potential. But then Nick said, okay, we have a little meeting, we'll find out who in the band is interested in doing this. And the five of us got together, and suddenly we had to go to Paris and got the instruments, came back, we're sticking them in our ears and various places until we finally managed to make a few noises out of the panpipes. If you actually listen to the panpipe part of one player, you're going ooh, ooh, so it makes no sense at all, but when you actually put it together, it actually plays a tune. I can't remember where we got the name from, but we found the name of Milton Zampata, who was a Bolivian man living in Paris, who made all these instruments. And Simon and Tony turned up at the door, and they knocked on the door, and he opened it. And he said, we've come to buy some panpipes and some charangos. And he looked at these, gringos. What are they doing here? And he let them in to the lounge where coffee and things was made, and there's a charango sitting on the table. And he said, I don't make very many instruments. There's a bit here, maybe we talk about it later on. I'll have a cup of tea. Simon picked up the triangle, and he'd obviously been practicing for a long time, and he played. He said, oh, you come downstairs with me. And we went downstairs and opened this doors, and there was this huge workroom, completely full of panpipes, charangos, and canes. And that's where we get all our instruments now.
Much of the South American music which Incantation play has its roots in the Indian cultures of Peru and Bolivia, countries on the west coast of the Southern American continent. Incantation's involvement with South American music led them to travel to Peru, where they planned to listen to and record the local Quechuan Indian music and to play and record their own interpretations of it.
I'm a bit worried about who's drivers, See you later, perhaps not.
First, they headed for Cusco, the ancient capital of the Incas, a city which stands at 12,000 feet above sea level in the heart of the Andes.
When we actually arrived in Cusco, we tried to find as many local musicians as possible, but the actual feel of the music that they played, that was the original traditional feel, which was what we really wanted to try and get back to. Whereas in some of the clubs we went, and the peñas we played in La Paz and Cusco, it was a bit too sort of westernized, you know, specifically for Western guests, you know, as a bit of an entertainment. Whereas the chaps we have actually on the video and the film was really, for me, the reason we went, and what we got is good as far as I'm concerned.
Those guys who played in the clubs, I mean, they kind of wrote their own music and their own arrangements and that kind of thing, and they didn't seem to think much of the Indians who played the music in the street. But for us, you know, they were the boys who really mattered, because the music that, I mean, like the guys we saw in Cusco, if you asked them to play a Bolivian tune, they wouldn't know any. You know, all the music they know is the stuff that comes from Cusco, because that's what they've always played, and it's what they learned off their fathers and grandfathers and whatnot. And these other boys, you know, who play in the folk clubs, they just kind of, you know, have a general mishmash of all
From Chile and
Latin American
Bolivia.
kind of general music, you know, and very kind of strong and hard and, you know, outgoing and whatnot. But for us to see those guys sitting on the pavement, just, you know, playing away, and they're not great technicians or anything, their instruments aren't great either, but just to kind of see them playing away there, the same old tunes, it was remarkable. And there's one, you know, image which I'll never forget, is there's these one particular group of street musicians. There was 3 of them, and they were all blind, and then one of them had a little child who was about 5 or 6, and the child would lead the musicians, you know, kind of across the square and across the streets and that every day to where they were going to play, and to watch him, you know, kind of taking them by the hand and depositing them where they were going to be. And then he used to when you put some money in the cup they had out, he used to tell them how much it was. And then the guy would reach in the cup and, you know, put it under his poncho straight away. Something about the sound, though, when those boys play. I mean, even if they don't kind of tune up properly, or their instruments are really not very good, or they're not very technically proficient, the kind of jingle jangle sound that they make just sounds great. I mean,
it's like they're recording things over here. I think in Western Europe these days, the recording technique of everything has to be in tune. Everything has to be really sort of slick. Whereas if you just compare it to Irish traditional music, I remember being in Ireland 10 years ago, and I was in a pub somewhere, and there was a fiddle over the fireplace, and this old Paddy had to be convinced to get his fiddle off the fireplace, you know, and you could see the first position was 2 inches thick in dust, and the rest of the fiddle was 6 inches thick in dust. And when he got it off, when he got it off the mantelpiece, and there was no question of tuning it. He just played it, and that's sort of it's slightly out of tuneness, but all the technique's still there, and that's what makes folk music sort of for me vibrant. It doesn't actually have to be right.
Darling, I'm home.
Hello, Han. Had a hard day?
Murder. Positively murder. You don't know what it's like. Marauding all day with those screaming hordes. You can't relax for a minute.
Got just the thing for you. A nice glass of Harvey's Bristol cream.
How very civilized.
Oh, Genghis rang. He's having a bit of a bash on Saturday night.
Oh, Harvey's Bristol cream. A touch of refinement.
Allied Lions, a great British company.
There are furniture makers in the Cotswolds who still believe in the old values, taking time, making sure that quality and craftsmanship is kept alive and well. The furniture makers are Wesley Barrel. And why we are mentioning it to you now is that at all the beautiful Wesley Barrel showrooms, gestures have been made with regard to price. We are having a sale. You will find Wesley Barrel's fine furniture and beds in Brighton, Bournemouth and Tunbridge Wells. Come and see the craftsmanship. It's the hallmark of Wesley Barrel.
Achoo! Achoo!
Don't let a stinking cold get you down. Contact 400 gives relief for up to 12 hours.
From Allied Lions, a great British company.
One of the problems we came up against was actually being very cold, because it might look sunny, but it's actually very, very cold and windy. But the bonus of recording in places like up in the mountains is the kind of stone walls you've got around you and the rocks and things. And they produce these incredible echoes. And we recorded one of the tracks on the album at Machu Picchu, actually in the Temple of the Sun, which is, it's not got a roof on it, but it's got these kind of walls. And the sound really has this incredible reverberation. And also at Sacsayhuaman, where there are these great big Inca stones again.
Sacsayhuaman, the great fortress of Inca Yupanqui, overlooks Cusco, the oldest city in the Americas. These massive walls were built to provide a refuge for the Inca people and storage for their harvest. 20,000 Indians laboured for over 30 years to cut, dress and transport these huge blocks. Some weigh over 100 tons, and yet the walls are held together by the sheer weight of the stones themselves. The largest were known as weary stones. One block was hauled over 15 leagues by more than 15,000 slaves, killing 3,000 in the process. According to legend, the Indians, exhausted, abandoned it at the bottom of Sacsayhuaman Hill. The Huayno, or Peruvian dance tune incantation are playing here, is itself called Sacsayhuaman.
Well, one Sunday morning, I think it was a Sunday morning, we went to a place called Chincheros where they have a regular Sunday market and they sell all the fruit and veg and the usual things you find in a market here.
Vine of death.
Vine of death, yes, which we didn't actually manage to find any of that. We'd been warned about the particularly heavy-duty preparation, but they had all the clothes and all the stuff, you know, and they had some chicha, which is it's a local brew made from maize, brewed, you know, like beer here, only different.
Great. That's great. Oh, here's another pint.
Yeah, right, let's have a go at that.
Oh,
Actually,
I'm not absolutely sure about this.
The flies like it.
We had a few jars of that. It's really weird stuff. I mean, it looks like a kind of glass of porridge, and it hits the button straight away, and then it wears off really quickly as well. So it's just quite different to drinking, you know, beer here.
Oh, serious. Let's do another blind one. Okay, guys.
The first reaction I had on arriving there was the fact that all these pictures we'd seen of people in costumes, national costumes, was that they didn't just wear it on, you know, National Independence Day. They didn't just wear it once a year. They wore it all the time. And people on the streets, you know, like that harvesters, they're always there every day of the year.
Mm.
And they wear that gear to do the harvesting and anything. You know.
Yeah, that was the amazing thing, was the colour. And when we got to Lima, it could have been any capital city in the world.
Yeah.
And then going on the plane to Cusco, and come down and, well, it's much higher, was it 12,000?
Yeah.
And with a different colour, and all of a sudden you saw Indians as they've probably been for centuries, and that was quite a culture shock.
Not far from Cusco, one of the headwaters of the Amazon has cut its way down through the Andes in a series of gorges. The Urubamba River route was known to the Incas and to this day is peopled by their descendants. The train rattles downhill on a track which has seen better days yet remains a masterpiece of engineering. The river is never far away, tumbling all the time from the chill heights of the mountains to the warmth of the tropical forests. The Incas knew this route, using it to carry rare spices, drugs and medicines from the jungle below. Along the way they built outposts, their tambos or stopping places, and cities which the Spanish invaders never found. One of these, set in the forest above the river, is Machu Picchu.
For me, the whole trip was worth it just to go to that place. That was absolutely extraordinary, especially, you know, kind of in the early evening and first thing in the morning when the tourists had gone. There was a kind of mist and whatnot, and it was just really magical. Yeah.
Machu Picchu, deep in the mountains, is one of the lost cities of the Incas, said to be a place of retreat for Manco, the last of the race. Hiram Bingham, an American, discovered this fortified town in 1911, hoping to find golden objects left by the Incas. Instead, nothing. Machu Picchu was empty, and we can only guess that the Indians had retreated further into the mountains. Here, the Temple of the Three Windows is believed to represent a part of the Inca creation myth, which says that not far from Cusco, there was a place on a hillside with three openings. The royal Inca line issued from the center, and the ordinary people from each of the others. The Incas worshipped the sun, believing that they could capture its power by tying its rays to the Intihuatana, or hitching stone. Incantation's music depends on very distinctive traditional qualities. Tony Hinnigan and Simon Rogers have a large collection of South American string and wind instruments, each of which demands its own specialised playing technique. Here in Simon's home recording studio, the two carefully reworked traditional musical forms into Incantation's own particular sound.
They're extremely old, these, and they have a very kind of funny scale, so you've got to have two of them to play a tune, you know, and you have to kind of jiggle around with the notes and that to get a tune going, but they're very, very kind of... very mellow kind of sound, you know. But they in Bolivia, they play them in big bands, you know, about 30 or 40, and they blow them really loud, which they also do with the pipes, which we got here, and these come in various different sizes, any size you like. These are small ones. And got some bigger ones here. And then we got some absolutely enormous, enormous ones, which temporarily got stuck. And, they sound extremely raunchy. And it's very. Here's some different ones again. These are extremely high tech. They've got corks in them, so you can push the corks in and out to tune them. This is one of the flutes they play. It's called a cana. It's made out of kind of bamboo style material, and it's a bit like what the pipes are, only the canes are much thicker. And it has a little notch at the top which you blow across, that makes the sound. And it sounds a bit like this. This one was made for us by the guy in Paris. But we saw them, canas and pipes being made when we were in Bolivia. Blokes just sitting, you know, along the pavement with a great big bundle of reeds in front of them and like a very sharp knife, and they just, you know, chop them off to the various lengths, stick them together, and away you go. It takes no time at all. They seem to play the pipes a lot more in Bolivia. We saw on Bolivian Independence Day, we went to this town and there was enormous bands of panpipers, you know, 40 or 50 in a band, all blasting away, you know, an incredibly raucous sound. And of course they can play much louder than us because they live at such an enormous height above sea level, you know, 12, 13, 14,000 feet, and you know they've lived there all their lives. And it was one night we were playing in a folk club in La Paz, and there was a guy there, a pipe player, and he's known as the man with 8 lungs because he plays so strongly and so fast and so loud, you know. None of us would have a hope of getting anywhere near it. The pipes and the flutes and all these things are all really ancient instruments, kind of pre-Spanish conquest. As far as we know, the Indians, the Quechuan Indians, didn't play any stringed instruments at all until the Spanish arrived and brought mandolins and harps and whatnot with them.
And all the wind instruments were kind of banned from church and services by the Spanish because they were linked with the ancient pagan religions, in the Spaniards' eyes anyway. And so the Indians sort of developed stringed instruments, and one thing they developed was the charango, which sort of came from the mandolin. And because there's not much wood around up in the Andes, they make them from these armadillo shells. and it gives them quite a kind of tight and cutting sort of sound. And that's the way they kind of play these things, very rhythmic, and sort of drives the music along. Here's another kind of charango. We bought it in Peru, in Cusco, and this one's made out of wood on the back, very nicely made, and it's got a kind of silvery sound because it's got wire strings as opposed to the gut or nylon ones. And this one, as I say, is very well made, really, for Peruvian and Bolivian instruments, because most of them are made as kind of souvenirs, and they don't tend to play in tune very well, but that one's very well made. And the shop we bought it in, the guy had hundreds of instruments just crammed into this kind of tiny little cave that was his workshop or his bedroom.
You can still smell the smell of his house from the inside of this charango. It's the most amazing place. He had all the instruments in this tiny little room. You know, it was made of mud bricks, the place he lived in. And he took us in there, and there's all kinds of parrots and chickens and
piles of armadillo shells.
Piles of armadillo shells, yeah. And it was his bedroom, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And his workshop was just under a corrugated iron cover. You know, it wasn't at all what you'd expect from an instrument maker's workshop. It was almost open air.
One piece jobbing.
Amazing.
Todo esto es hecho para usted?
Sí, sí. Very thin wire, you know.
I think we better have that as well, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we have both mandolin and
Yeah,
charango, yeah?
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Okay, who's got the quid?
Yeah. Oh dear.
It's like $96 altogether, isn't it?
Your craft originals, huh?
What oddities.
Might I inquire, sir, what is in these cases?
Local off license for selling off this bargain pale cream number.
You mean you purchased these?
It was frightfully cheap. Mind you, when one tasted it, one could see why. Not a patch on the real thing, so I thought they'd make decent presents for the tradesman.
Unwise, sir. A gentleman's reputation rests not only on the sherry that he drinks, but on the refinement of the sherry that he gives.
So you think a case of that might not go down too well?
It would be as welcome, sir, I think, as a case of mumps.
Craft Original Pale Cream Sherry. One instinctively knows when something is right.
I want you to stare deeply within this smoke and analyze what you are seeing. Gaze into this rich, sensuous curl. Now relax and tell Dr. Freud what you are seeing. Him, are you seeing what I am seeing? A nude woman turning slowly with a bunch of radishes?
Aromatic, easy smoking Erinmore. You'll be crazy about it.
Epson, one of the largest computer companies in the world, has invented one of the smallest, most powerful computers in the world. It has a very catchy little name, the PX8, and it works anywhere. As you can see, it's indeed raring to go. So wherever your work takes you, you can take your Epson PX8. Which is particularly handy for me when I'm working for the European Space Agency in zero gravity.
The Epson PX8. You can take it anywhere.
Question. Where's Hudson's Bay?
Canada.
Right. Now what's 3 in German?
Dry.
Yes, absolutely parched.
And the next question is, where's the ice?
Canada Dry Ginger Ale. It's a question of taste.
one of the things we've been doing recently is another ballet piece for Rambert again. It's a piece by Robert North called Entre dos Aguas, and it's mainly flamenco music, but I've used South American instruments like the cuatro in it, which is Venezuelan. In fact, the first section is kind of Venezuelan waltz. Most of it, though, I think is really flamenco, and it's kind of the darker side of flamenco music, lots of clicking and different rhythms.
The Spanish may have taken their own traditional music with them to South America, but that was not what they were there for. The 16th century Spanish invaders found the New World a hostile land. Tropical forests, endless deserts, chill mountains. On the coast of Peru, they were greeted as the returning gods of Indian legend, a lost race of giants, the white-bearded Viracochas. Captain Francisco Pizarro and his band of less than 200 stood before the temples lined with gold, where sacred niches held a fortune in precious images of silver, platinum and priceless stones. But rumours of even greater wealth tempted Pizarro to turn east over the snow-capped Cordilleras to the land of the fabled Incas high in the Andes. They set out to climb 3 miles high through treacherous canyons in search of more. Pizarro arrived in the land of the Incas at a time of conflict within the ruling family. Atahualpa, the last king of the Incas, had taken control from his brother Huáscar, and Pizarro found him camped with his armies on a green, fertile plain at Cajamarca, hundreds of miles north of Cusco, the capital. Pizarro's strategy was bold: march into Cajamarca, gain Atahualpa's confidence, and then surprise him. It worked. Pizarro's soldiers were at first stunned by their success, then overjoyed as Atahualpa pleaded for his life, offering a ransom of gold and silver in return. Atahualpa called upon his people to fill 2 large rooms to the height of his outstretched arm, and the word went out to bring priceless objects from all 4 corners of the Inca Empire. Eventually, the ransom was completed. Astounded, the Spanish conquistadores saw the rooms filled. Gloating, Pizarro ordered the death of Atahualpa. the conquest was complete.
Maria Liskai, Nyunganchi Unata, Chaupi Watashka Gadenas, Chinkaiska Amutai, Chaupi Watashka Gadenas, Chinkaiska Amutai. Atoria tawalpa, zuna zebelia tawalpa. Atoria tawalpa, zuna zebelia tawalpa. Atoria tawalpa, zuna zebelia tawalpa.
From Machu Picchu, the group travelled back to Cusco and then on by plane over the highest peaks of the Andes to Bolivia and Lake Titicaca.
Next to La Paz. Este cortado es el Morurata y este es el Huayna Potosí y el Iyam.
Turbulence. Oh, so La Paz is, yeah, it's before the mountain there.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Some mountain there as well.
Set high in the Andes, Titicaca is a sacred lake. The Indians living beside it have legends of gods, storms and spirits that are miraculously conjured from its depths. One fascinating story concerns a legend of lost gold. The moment Atahualpa was killed in Cacamarca, word went out to stop the flow of gold to fill the ransom rooms. Around Lake Titicaca, they say that a massive golden chain was being carried to Cacamarca from the south. By the lake, the bearers of this fortune heard the terrible news and decided to heave the gold into the lake to conceal it from the conquistadores. And of course, according to legend, it was tipped into the deepest part of the water and has never been found. From Lake Titicaca, the group moved up into the mountains again, to the royal range of the Andes to play beneath the peak of Condoriri, 15,000 feet above sea level.
Going to Peru and Bolivia was for us a bit like stepping sideways into another dimension. It was a world which to a certain extent we already knew through playing the music, but we weren't quite prepared for the real grandeur of the scenery, which you can't really tell from photographs, or the nobility of the people who, although they may be very poor, nevertheless they have a very strong culture and traditions, and as sophisticated European musicians had an awful lot to learn from them, which in a way is quite ironic. I think anyone who's travelled in South America will know what I mean when I say that having gone there and, so to speak, been bitten by the bug, you just can't wait to go back.
Banish the blues after Christmas and watch the Tubes report on the year of Band-Aid. Max Headroom, computer personality, was once a rather fetching humanoid specimen.
Why?
He saw the Rebus tape.
He's the best-known reporter on air.
Tina Turner's trying her luck. Tomorrow night is worth staying in for. On 4, of course.
Went to a cocktail bar in Leicester Square with this bloke. Said he was a millionaire. We had a drink. Called Calvier. Sounds a bit French. And it's made with pears.
C'est français, like what I am. Je suis un rock star. J'ai une résidence, a grand château, à la south of France.
Get away. You're working at Greengrocer's round the corner.
Here, voulez-vous Calvier avec moi?
From Allied Lions, a great British company.
Make yourself at home. Come into court.
For special first-day-only bargains and half-price offers throughout the store. Court sale starts Boxing Day.
Blocked nose, catarrh, sinus congestion, headache and pain. Some people go for a decongestant. Others, a painkiller. Now Sinutab's double action gives you both. A fast-acting decongestant clears your blocked nose and sinuses, and a powerful painkiller fights your headache and pain. So when you feel a cold or sinus problem developing, why suffer? Ask your pharmacist for Sinutab, for fast, effective relief.
Good job I was drinking Barbican.
Starting shortly over on ITV, This Is Your Life. Here on 4 in a few minutes, a strong Welsh contingent, comprising of footballer Emlyn Hughes and rugby enthusiast Mac Boyce, joins snooker ace Steve Davis for conversation and a frame with Davis. First, though, we join Anne Lucas at ITN for the News Summary.
The siege at North Holt in Middlesex has ended in violence. Police with stun grenades stormed the flat where a man had been holding a 4-year-old girl at knife point. Shots were fired and a man was later taken to hospital with gunshot wounds. The girl was rescued by police. She's also been taken to hospital suffering from a stab wound. The death toll in the Christmas violence in South Africa has risen to 62. More than 50 died as thousands of Zulus battled with rival Pondo tribesmen near Durban in a dispute over land. And 3 blacks were killed in a clash between rival anti-apartheid groups in Cape Province. A second Republican prisoner has joined the Iron LA hunger strike at the Maze prison in Northern Ireland. Gerard Steenson, who's serving 6 life sentences for murder, began refusing food this morning. Another prisoner has already been on hunger strike for a week. Lebanon's 3 biggest militia groups, the Christians and Druze and Shiite Muslims, have agreed to a Syrian-backed peace pact. Beirut Radio says a treaty will be signed within a fortnight, with elections to take place within a year. Thousands of people are mopping up after floods that left parts of Devon and Cornwall under 4 feet of water. London had an inch of rain in 24 hours, a third of its normal rainfall for the whole month. Weathermen are promising a dry spell soon, but that could bring snow. And the weather disrupted the Boxing Day sports programme. Racing at Huntingdon was called off and 8 soccer matches were cancelled. In the matches that did go ahead, league leaders Manchester United lost to Everton and challengers Liverpool went down 1-0 to Manchester City. Well, the next news from ITN is on ITV at 9:15. And a reminder that there'll be a look back at the main events of the year in Channel 4 News next Monday.
Now a look at the weather for tonight and tomorrow. Any rain in southern counties will move away this evening, leaving England, Wales and Northern Ireland mostly dry overnight, with just a few sleet or snow showers in eastern areas, to be followed later by widespread frost.